The upcoming $55 billion canal Israel is constructing through Gaza is mind-boggling. As Israel continues its onslaught on the besieged Gaza Strip, talks about a long-discussed economic opportunity known as the Ben Gurion Canal Project have surfaced online. Named after Israel's founding father, David Ben Gurion, the project, conceived in the late 1960s, sought to create an alternative route to the Suez Canal, the primary shipping route connecting Europe and Asia. But why now? And how will the new project compare to the existing Suez Canal? Let's find out more. The Suez Canal. The Suez Canal is a sea-level waterway running north-south across the Isthmus in Egypt to connect the Mediterranean and the Red Seas. The canal separates the African continent from Asia, and it provides the shortest maritime route between Europe and the lands lying around the Indian and the Western Pacific Oceans. It enables a more direct route for shipping between Europe and Asia, effectively allowing for passage from the North Atlantic to the Indian Ocean without having to circumnavigate the African continent. The waterway is vital for international trade and, as a result, has been at the center of conflict since it opened in 1869. The Suez stretches 120 miles from Port Said on the Mediterranean Sea in Egypt southward to the city of Suez, located on the northern shores of the Gulf of Suez. The canal separates the bulk of Egypt from the Sinai Peninsula. It took 10 years to build and was officially opened on November 17, 1869. Owned and operated by the Suez Canal Authority, the canal is intended to be open to ships of all countries, be it for purposes of commerce or war, though that hasn't always been the case. Interest in a marine route connecting the Mediterranean and Red Seas dates back to ancient times. A series of small canals connecting the Nile River, and thus by extension the Mediterranean to the Red Sea, were in use as early as 2000 BC. However, a direct connection between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea was considered impossible due to concerns that they were at distinct altitudes. Therefore, various overland routes, using horse-drawn vehicles and later trains, were employed, most notably by Great Britain, which conducted significant trade with its colonies in present-day India and Pakistan. The idea of a large canal providing a direct route between the two bodies of water was discussed in the 1830s, thanks to the work of French explorer and engineer Lenault de Bellefonds, who specialized in Egypt. Bellefonds performed a survey of the Isthmus of Suez and confirmed that the Mediterranean and Red Seas were, contrary to popular belief, at the same level of altitude. This meant a canal without locks could be built, making construction significantly easier. Construction began at the northernmost Port Said end of the canal in early 1859. The excavation work took 10 years, and an estimated 1.5 million people worked on the project. Unfortunately, over the objections of many British, French, and American investors in the canal, many of these were slave laborers, and it is believed that tens of thousands died while working on the Suez from cholera and other causes. Political turmoil in the region negatively impacted the construction of the canal. At the time, Egypt was ruled by Britain and France, and there were several rebellions against colonial rule. This, coupled with the limitations of construction technology at the time, caused the total costs of building the Suez Canal to balloon to $100 million, more than double the original estimate. Today, an average of 50 ships navigate the canal daily, carrying more than 300 million tons of goods per year. In 2014, the Egyptian government oversaw an $8 billion expansion project that widened the Suez from 61 to 312 meters for a 21-mile distance. The project took 1 year to complete, and as a result, the canal can accommodate ships passing in both directions simultaneously. Despite the widened route, in March 2021, an enormous container ship heading from China became stuck in the canal, blocking more than 100 ships at each end of the vital shipping artery. The incident disrupted global trade for nearly a week. So, could that be the reason why the construction of this new canal was finally launched? To understand why the multi-billion-dollar project is currently underway, a little bit of history lesson won't hurt. The history behind Ben Gurion Canal. While Israel rejects calls for a ceasefire and its military campaign on Gaza shows no sign of an immediate end, it becomes crucial to delve into the historical context of the Ben Gurion Canal Project, its proposed significance, and the intricate geopolitics surrounding the Suez Canal. Understanding the motivations behind the proposal requires exploring the complex history of the Suez Canal, the tripartite aggression of 1956, and the unexpected shocks to the world trade resulting from its closures. This backdrop underscores the potential strategic importance of an alternative canal controlled by Israel in the ever-evolving dynamics of the region. But first, why the name Ben Gurion? David Ben Gurion, who lived between 1886 and 1973, was a prominent Zionist leader from Poland who was known as the founding father of Israel. He was described as a ruthless man who gave orders to Zionist militias to see the mass expulsion of Palestinians from their lands and facilitated the influx of Jewish immigrants from all over the world into Palestine. He served as the first Prime Minister of Israel in 1948. As mentioned earlier, the Ben Gurion Canal Project was a proposal in the 1960s by Israel to connect the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea through the southern end of the Gulf of Aqaba. The route was planned via the port city of Eilat and the Jordanian border, through the Araba Valley for about 100 kilometers between the Negev Mountains and the Jordanian highlands, and veered west before the Dead Sea Basin, and heading through a valley in the Negev mountain range. It would then head north again to circumvent the Gaza Strip and connect to the Mediterranean Sea. However, a connection between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea already exists through the Suez Canal, an artificial sea-level waterway in Egypt that offers vessels a direct route between the North Atlantic and the Northern Indian Oceans, reducing journey distance and time. As it is, the Suez Canal currently provides the shortest sea route between Asia and Europe and currently handles roughly 12% of the world's trade. In 2021, some 20,649 vessels flowed through the Suez Canal, an increase of 10% over 2020. In 2022, annual revenue stood at $8 billion in transit fees. The Suez Canal set a new record with an annual revenue of $9.4 billion for the fiscal year that ended on June 30th, 2023. The Ben Gurion Canal, if constructed, would rival the Suez Canal and cause a major financial threat to Egypt. If it goes ahead, it will be almost one-third longer than the current 193.3-kilometer Suez Canal, and whoever controls it will have enormous influence over the global supply routes for oil, grain, and shipping. The Ben Gurion Project. The U.S. had once proposed to use some 520 nuclear bombs on the Negev desert to help create the canal. With Gaza razed to the ground, there have been alleged plans to literally cut corners and reduce costs by diverting the canal straight through the middle of the Palestinian enclave. However, the presence of Palestinians there would remain an obstacle. Since Israel launched its onslaught on the besieged enclave, it has pushed Palestinians to move south by relentlessly bombing northern Gaza before carrying out a ground invasion weeks later. At least 400,000 Palestinians have been displaced from the north to the south, according to statistics from the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics. Some 800,000 Palestinians remained in areas considered north, namely past north of Wadi Gaza. Israel's indiscriminate bombing campaign, which has mostly targeted the north, has killed at least 11,470 people in Gaza, mostly civilians, including women and children. The Ben Gurion Canal concept went into abeyance for decades due to concerns about radioactive releases and Arab opposition. However, new prospects for cooperation between Arab nations and Israel emerged with the Abraham Accords under the Trump administration, which saw the normalization of relations between Israel and Arab countries, including the United Arab Emirates. Almost immediately after normalization in 2020, a deal was made to ship UAE oil via a pipeline from Eilat on an arm of the Red Sea to the Mediterranean, but it was later blocked by Israeli environmental authorities based on concerns about oil spills. At the September 2023 G20 meeting, shortly before the Hamas attack, the India-Middle East corridor was announced. It would create a transportation link from India to Europe across the Arabian Peninsula via Dubai in the UAE to the Israeli port in Haifa. In December 2023, Even after Israel launched its invasion of Gaza, UAE and Israeli interests made a deal to create a land bridge between Dubai and Haifa. With the Abraham Accords in the background, an event in 2021 brought new attention to the Ben Gurion Canal, this time excavated by more controversial means. In March of that year, a massive container ship suffered a steering malfunction and grounded in the Suez Canal, shutting off traffic. The blockage raised concerns about how this vital artery of global shipping could become a choke point. In April 2023, Israel announced it would begin construction of a dual-channel canal that could handle two-way traffic in June. At 50 meters deep, 10 more than the Suez, and 200 wide, it would be capable of accommodating the world's biggest ships, an advantage over the more limited Suez Canal. Unlike Suez with its sandy shores, rock walls would reduce maintenance requirements to a minimum. Its 181 miles in length would exceed Suez by about one-third. Around 300,000 workers would be needed to complete the project, with a wide range of estimated costs from $16 billion to $55 billion. Israel would expect to earn around $6 billion annually in transit fees, deeply cutting Egypt's revenues, which reached a record $9.4 billion in the fiscal year 2022 to 23. Despite the announcement, construction hasn't started yet. Many analysts interpret the current Israeli reoccupation of the Gaza Strip as something that many Israeli politicians have been waiting for in order to revive an old project. The new focus on the Ben Gurion Canal coincides with a revival of interest in another Gaza-related project, the exploitation of gas reserves off the Gaza coast. The Gaza marine field was first discovered in 1999, but Israel blocked proposals to tap it for many years. Then, in March 2021, the Palestinian Investment Fund, a branch of the Palestinian Authority, and the Egyptian government signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at developing the field. But Hamas representatives raised objections. On June 18, 2023, a little under 4 months before the attack, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced plans to move forward on development in conjunction with the Palestinian Authority and Egypt. It had been reported that secret talks on development took place between Israel and the Palestinian Authority the prior month. The effects of Ben Gurion. When completed, the Ben Gurion Canal would provide Israel with leverage over one of the world's most important shipping points. Around 22,000 ships transited the Suez Canal in 2022, representing 12% of world trade. The International Energy Agency reports that about 5% of the world's crude oil, 10% of oil products, and 8% of LNG seaborne flows transit the canal. Though the flow from east to west is still important, increasingly fossil products move from the Atlantic basin to feed Asia's growing economies. There are so many questions surrounding the project, though. Did revived interest in the Ben Gurion Canal cause Israeli authorities to look the other way when they had clear warnings of a Hamas attack? Only time will tell. And that's it from us today. If you enjoy the video, be sure to click on the subscribe icon below. Also, give us a like, share the video, and remember to turn on the notification bell for timely updates of our latest uploads. Until next time, thank you for watching.